Hey there, and welcome to Autism in Color. In today's video, we're talking about autistic self-advocates of color and why their voices matter. Too often, conversations about autism exclude the very people most affected. Today is about listening, learning, and making space for autistic people of color to lead. When we talk about autism, too often the loudest voices are not autistic people themselves, and even less often autistic people of color. The people I'm sharing today are changing that. Each of them brings lived experience, cultural context, and leadership into spaces that have historically ignored or erased us. Lauren Melissa Elzy is an autistic self-advocate who speaks openly about what it means to live at the intersection of autism, race, queerness, and everyday life. Her work centers on authenticity, showing up as your full self, even when systems were not built with you in mind. What makes Lauren's voice powerful is how grounded it is. She talks about real experiences, masking, burnout, boundaries, and learning how to advocate for yourself without apology. As a queer autistic person, Lauren also speaks to the layered experience of navigating multiple marginalized identities at once and the pressure to make yourself smaller to stay safe or accepted. Her content resonates especially with autistic adults who are still figuring out who they are after years of being misunderstood. If you want honest conversations about identity, self-acceptance, queerness, and what unmasking actually looks like in real life, Lauren is someone to follow and learn from. A few things to know about Lauren. She speaks candidly about the emotional and physical cost of masking. She reframes rests and boundaries as survival tools, not weaknesses. Her advocacy resonates strongly with late-identified autistic adults. And lastly, she centers queer and autistic self-trust over external validation. Lauren's work reminds us that self-advocacy often starts internally, but that personal clarity can also grow into systems-level change, especially when autistic people bring lived experience into research and policy spaces. Morenike Jiwa Anawu is a nationally recognized autistic advocate, writer, and researcher whose work has shaped how professionals talk about autism and race. She consistently calls out the gaps in research, services, and policy that leave autistic people of color behind. Morenike doesn't just name problems, she offers language, frameworks, and solutions. Her work challenges deficit-based thinking and pushes systems to listen to autistic people, especially those from marginalized communities. If you're interested in disability justice, research ethics, or how lived experience should inform policy and practice, Morenike's work is essential. A few things to know about Morenike. She is widely cited in autism research and professional training spaces. She bridges lived experience with policy and academic work. She challenges who is treated as an expert in autism spaces. And lastly, her advocacy pushes institutions toward accountability, not optics. While Morenike's work focuses on changing systems, advocacy also shows up in how stories are told and whose humanity is fully seen. Tylen Grant is an autistic self-advocate whose work sits at the intersection of disability justice, mental health, and social equity. He speaks candidly about trauma, systemic harm, and what support should actually look like for autistic people. Tylen's advocacy emphasizes that access is not just about accommodations, but about safety, dignity, and being believed. He brings a deeply human perspective to conversations that are often overly clinical or disconnected from real life. In addition to advocacy, Tylen is also an actor. Through his work in acting, he challenges narrow and stereotypical portrayals of autistic people. His presence on screen expands what representation looks like, showing autistic people of color as complex, emotional, and fully human. If you want to understand how autism, trauma, and creative expression intersect, Tylen's work offers honesty and depth. A few things to know about Tylen. He centers trauma-informed approaches to autism support. He challenges compliance-based and coercive care models. He uses acting as another form of advocacy and storytelling. And lastly, his work emphasizes safety as a foundational access need. Tylen's work shows us that advocacy also lives in storytelling and creativity. That same reclaiming of voice carries into education and everyday conversations about autism. Kayla Smith is an autistic self-advocate who uses storytelling and education to shift how people understand autism. Her work focuses on lived experience, representation, and making complex ideas accessible without watering them down. Kayla speaks to the importance of autistic voices being centered, not tokenized. She helps audiences rethink what independence, communication, and success actually mean when autistic people define those terms for themselves. If you're looking for thoughtful, grounded advocacy that bridges personal experience and broader systems, Kayla's work is worth exploring. A few things to know about Kayla. She prioritizes autistic-defined narratives over stereotypes. She reframes communication differences as differences, not deficits. She centers agency, choice, and self-determination. And lastly, she highlights autistic joy alongside challenge. To fully understand why redefining autism matters, we also need to look at how autistic people show up in culture, art, and music, especially when they bring their full identities with them. Kat Burns is a British singer-songwriter who has openly shared about being an ADHDer and queer. Through her music, she brings emotional honesty, vulnerability, and depth that resonate deeply with many autistic listeners, especially queer autistic people of color. Kat's songs often explore themes of heartbreak, longing, overstimulation, and emotional intensity in ways that feel raw and relatable. For many fans, her music captures feelings that are hard to put into words, especially for autistic people who experience emotions deeply but process them differently. By being open about both her neurodivergence and queerness, Kat expands representation in the music industry and challenges assumptions about who gets to be soft, expressive, and emotionally complex. Her visibility matters not just because she's autistic, but because she's fully herself. If you connect to music as a form of regulation, expression, or queer autistic belonging, Kat's work may feel like home. A few things to know about Kat. She has publicly shared that she is an ADHDer and queer. Her music resonates strongly with autistic emotional experience. She brings vulnerability and softness into mainstream music spaces. And lastly, she expands visibility for queer autistic people of color in the arts. So why do these voices matter? All of these advocates remind us that autism does not exist in a vacuum. Race, culture, trauma, queerness, creativity, and access shape how autism is experienced and how support is delivered or denied. Following autistic self-advocates of color is not about inspiration alone. It's about listening, learning, and letting autistic people lead conversations about our own lives. If any of these names are new to you, that's okay. Let this be a starting point. Look them up, read their work, sit with what they're saying, and most importantly, make space for autistic people of color to be heard. Thanks so much for joining me today, and remember, in our true colors, we find our strength. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.